You're listening to Traumedy, the podcast that helps you take your pain and play with it. Hi, I'm Nancy Norton. I'm a comedian. I'm a former nurse. I'm a keynote speaker about the power of humor. And also, I am the producer of Nurses Off the Charts, a comedy show for healthcare workers and all those who love them. Our next show is in Juneau, Alaska. This week, it's coming up on June 14th, Flag Day in Juneau, and can't wait. We have 2 shows there. I also do a lot of shows with Moms Unhinged. Love these shows. We're touring all over the country now, Moms Unhinged. You can go to my Linktree and see upcoming dates. We're all over the place. And please reach out to us. If you have any questions or you want to be a guest on Traumedy, we would love to have you. You can message me through my website, nancynorton.tv, like television. Transmute your trauma with some comedy. This week, we are dealing with some heavy subjects. Again, probably every week. You know, I should just put a blanket trigger warning on Traumedy. We're dealing with trauma. This week's episode, you should know, deals with suicide and also some really uplifting things like, did you know that the heart has neurons and that there are more messages going from the heart to the brain than the other direction? That was my biggest takeaway for me this week. And this is part 2 with Von Sprecken. He is very insightful, very knowledgeable, and a great communicator. Very fun episode for me, and it is a longer episode. These 2 episodes with Von Sprecken are 90 minutes each, so this ought to get you through till next Tuesday. You can listen to it in increments, but I think all of it is valuable, so take your time with it, enjoy the process. Traumedy, obviously, is not a replacement for trauma therapy. We are not experts. This is peer-to-peer sharing. We are knowledgeable to the point of like, I have a background as a nurse, Von Sprecken as an EMT, but most of this is just anecdotal evidence and some of our own personal research. And so we are not psychiatrists, we are not psychologists, we're not giving psychiatric advice, we're not giving psychological advice. We're just saying, hey, here's what we believe, here's what has worked for us, here's what's helped us, here's some things that we've dealt with. And so that's what we want to share with you, just so you know you're not alone, that people have dealt with some really hard stuff, just like you're dealing with, and have been to despair and back. And that's mainly, I think, who our listeners are, people who have been to hell and back, you know, because we're different. There are a lot of people who would not want to listen to this podcast. It's just too heavy. But for me, this is what I do want to listen to, and also the lightness, and there's humor all woven in. And of course, this is a podcast about therapeutic humor, since I studied therapeutic humor at the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor for the last 3 years. And I'm a keynote speaker. I give presentations about the power of humor, especially for healthcare workers, but for everybody, for businesses, for lay people, for people in the community, for individuals. Humor is an amazing resource. It helps you reset, get expanded perspectives, not to get stuck in the past. It helps you get in the present. So that's my power of humor presentation in 30 seconds. Enjoy this episode, part 2 with Von Sprecken. Welcome to Traumedy with part 2 with Von Sprecken. Last week on
Traumedy.
We laughed all the harder because you were in the depths of depression.
Where we left, I was not doing well. I was in the hospital because I was suicidal. Last time on Traumedy, abusive household, angry dad. Coped with drugs through most of my adolescence. In my early 20s, it kind of collapsed around me. I finally got sent to rehab, did well, went to school to be an EMT while I was kind of doing my recovery from drugs, but eventually it kind of collapsed again. Now I'm suicidal. Now I'm back in the hospital. But while I'm in the hospital, I finally start to kind of fully embrace some of the things that I've been learning in rehab, in therapy. And from here on out, the story starts to get a lot more light. If last week felt heavy at all, this should be, this is a much more inspirational, much more happy part of the story.
Yeah, this is like here, you kind of hit bottom, and this is the upside of the
this is from
inverted bell curve.
And there were definitely difficult times after that, but from there, I was never able to like fully give into despair again. Because you talked about this last time where I finally had this sort of connection of like, I understood the difference between being depressed and the world being depressing. Like I was like, oh, these are feelings that I'm going through. But one of the biggest tricks that I played on myself was like, when I feel sad, it's not because I feel sad. It's because the world genuinely is awful. And that's kind of an emotional pattern I think I picked up from my dad in particular. A lot of people kind of have that though. Like emotions do color the way we perceive the world. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between I feel bad and the world is bad. And I finally really started to grasp this concept of like, maybe I've been fooling myself. And that's a lot of the power that depression has over us. Like really strong feelings really control our behavior when we believe them, when we're like, oh no, I don't just feel this way. This is real. Like,
yeah. That's the biology of belief, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And when that's the thing. Yeah. You can interpret when you feel very, very sad, but you believe, oh, like if I'm going through this for a reason, if there's a higher reason for this, if I know I'm going to get through this, if I know people are going to support me, that's often the difference between someone who's just very sad or grieving or something versus someone who's like chronically depressed. And also there are like brain chemistry aspects.
I know that's the
physical.
There's precursors or there's things that predispose you to the feelings too, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that all gets confusing. Like what is real? What's real?
Yeah.
And so you were saying you had like a cup of coffee and all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, but there was something that happened and a shift inside you.
Well, and a lot of it was, a lot of these like big revelation moments actually come with a bunch of precursor. Like I was learning about this stuff for a long time. And then finally that was the moment where I could see it clearly. But like, that's the thing, like a lot of these like big revelations that I've had in life, it's like, I finally was able to understand what someone had been trying to explain to me for a long time, which is like, yeah, it can be hard to, it's one thing, we talk about the journey from the head to the heart. It's one thing to intellectually understand something. It's quite another to feel like doing it. Like big one in our culture right now is, like dieting, right? I know what I should eat, but why don't I feel like eating it? And imagine how good it is when you can finally be like, oh, I eat things because they make me feel healthy and they make me feel good. And then you never have to go on a diet again. You just eat what makes you feel good.
Yeah, you're drawn to something instead of avoiding something else.
Exactly. And that was sort of like the switch that I made in my depression was the like, when I get depressed, I feel like I'm still going to be okay as opposed to, oh, I'm depressed, therefore my life really is awful, therefore I have nothing to look forward to, and spiral.
And that whole global thinking, there's like, I know one time when I was, I will tell you where I was, domestic violence treatment after I had thrown a guitar. Yeah, that was a felony, but don't do that. Yeah. There were like 12 distorted thinking patterns too, that are like globalization, like that. And
all or nothing
thinking,
big one, black
and white thinking. One of my distorted thinking is making it about me. Like if somebody's a certain behavior, taking it personally. Those are so helpful to see those and go, oh, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, but see,
I'm generalizing.
Then, once again, very easy to look at those and be like, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that, but quite another to internalize it and to act it out in your everyday life. And that's why things like meditation are so important, because it's really, meditation to me is all about becoming one with first yourself and then with like the universe. Like when you achieve these transcendent states, like don't go straight for that. Like first get in touch with yourself, then you kind of get in touch with other people. Then through that, you get in touch with the universe, but like one step at a time. And when we get into chakras, we're going to talk about that. It's going to be great.
I can't wait.
So let's see, as of now, we left off, I'm in the hospital. And fun story. My mom is fed up with me.
Yeah. And your mom saved your life.
Right. She did. Very, very grateful still to this day for that. But she's like, I don't know how to handle you. Like this has happened, and she sent me to rehab, and now she sent me to the hospital. And so she's like, I kind of don't want you moving back in here. So I have to call my dad. Yeah. And this is where, things
return to the scene of the crime.
Kind of. Well, so at this point they've divorced. They've been divorced for a while, and he's living kind of in a home across town. I'm not psyched about it, but I really don't want to be homeless. It is December. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I can deal with that and try and get my life back on track. So I called him up. He agreed to take me in, and this is where things get, it's black. It's not all black and white. Like he was such a villain to me. Like my whole life, I had assumed that that's how he was, and he's still a little like that. But at the same time, like it's hard because like as badly as he made me feel growing up. Like he made kind of all his kids feel very unloved, very unwanted for most of our lives. But in that moment when I had nowhere else to go, he did take me in, and I have to give him credit for that. And like We didn't talk about anything. We did not talk about the past. I was a much better roommate, granted, than I was at 5. You know, I cleaned up after myself and I kind of kept to myself. And obviously I was like very motivated to get out. So like I found a temp job and I was like looking for apartments the whole time. So I was like, this is just very temporary, and it made it a little easier, I think, to deal with it. For all his faults, like I do think he loves his kids, and it's really sad that I feel like he kind of just doesn't know how to express that and how to do that and how to talk about it. But like, yeah, at the end of the day.
And how not to offload his self-hate and his wounds onto you. That was the other thing. And I do see that with my mother too. And I think this is one of the things that I'm trying to remember. I just read this recently and I wish I could remember where I read it. But it was the person, this is what it does create some cognitive and emotional dissonance inside of us, because it's like the people that fed us, housed us, created us,
and
birthed us.
I think does kind of want the best for us. Like he wants it, but he just doesn't understand how to connect and get there. Like how to really help. Yeah.
He had the imprinting of his survival traits that he's like, this is the way I survived. And by God, you better learn to survive. And the thing that is like the plate that's left on the counter, if you listen to the previous episode, and please do if you haven't, because it may not make sense what we're talking about otherwise, but it's like that plate represents something much bigger to him, like obviously, clearly. And it's like, well, you're not going to be okay. We're not going to be okay if you don't do this thing.
How can we possibly survive if we don't run a tight ship, you know?
Yeah. And I mean,
it's like, this isn't a ship. I'm 9.
But I like that you're acknowledging I do know this, every single person is doing their best. It is hard to admit, but that is their best.
Sometimes their best really hurts us.
Yes.
And trying to find that balance between, I could acknowledge them and see their humanity, but I have to also acknowledge and see my own. And it's really hard. Like it's a much higher vibrational, higher cognitive process to be able to hold those two ideas that are seemingly contradictory, but are both simultaneously true, which is like, what they did hurt me a lot. And whether or not they meant to, I have to respect that. If I'm to respect myself, I have to respect the pain that they put me through. And also at the same time, realize that they're dealing with their own pain, and right now, as of things are right now with my dad, like we're very low contact, possibly almost like no contact at all in the near future, because at this point we've kind of like, I'm like, I don't know how else to talk to this guy. Like the only thing, every time I get together and it's like awkward for a couple hours at Christmas, the only thing I want to talk about is what we've been through. And I have to stuff that down and pretend that everything's fine. And just, like we talk about like traffic and how he doesn't like to go to the store on weekends because there's too many people there. We have the same conversation over and over. And the whole time I'm thinking like, you hurt me so much. I'm not. And I tried bringing it up and he's just like, just get over it. And I'm like, fuck you, get over it. Like easy for you to get over. Messed me up for years, dude. Almost died. And we never talked about that. We never talked about, and we're going to get into in a little bit. My brother did die. I don't want to skip too many things. We'll talk about how we kind of got to that point later.
One thing I do want to acknowledge one thing about like with our parents. I got to a point where I recognized my mother really was not capable. Now she is now passed on. Thanks to me.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
No, I did not. I mean, I say I euthanized her, but she asked me to. Okay. And the point is, it wasn't really.
Believe in your dreams, kids. Oh my God. Yeah.
It was very healing. But I mean, it truly was. She was under hospice care.
So Freudian right now.
She was under. No, I'm telling you, dude. But she was under hospice care. But I was there every 2 hours, giving her Dilaudid and Ativan. And I know that shuts down your respiratory system. And I'm trying to ease her to the other side. Now she was 94, she was sick and all this stuff. But I'm just saying, but when she was alive, I think it was at 32 years old, and I said to my mother, and I was crying, and I said, Mom, I just want to feel your heart. And my mother raged in my face to that comment. I don't want to feel. And I thought, wow. I thought, well, that's
actually incredibly like a moment of accidental self-awareness.
But you know, like anger liberates your truth sometimes. And that was her truth. And I thought that was so helpful to me. I got to tell you, after that, I thought that's a limitation. And I see it, and it really, it's not necessarily about me. And it hurt me. I'm my whole life trying to connect with that woman's heart and trying to like, just love me. She couldn't. She couldn't love herself. She couldn't love me. She couldn't feel. It's heartbreaking. But also we ended up, and she told me, Nancy, all I want to talk about is movies. She told me what we were allowed to talk about.
Interesting.
But I'm just saying, I don't know what's realistic. Like, I don't know. Like, you're still not clear where his limitations are. I think there's still a part of you going, maybe there's hope.
Yeah, I gave him, last Christmas, I gave him a book on trauma. Cause like when I confronted him about the abuse and I was like, man, I had a slight side story, but this makes sense. I had an ex-girlfriend who, when the oil light would come on in her car, she would just be like, oh, okay. And she'd just top it up with more oil. Now that's, in the long run, that's bad for your car. You're supposed to, change the filter, drain the old oil, put in new oil. But she just sees the light. And it's like, look, does she hate her car? No. But is she taking care of it the right way? No, just out of ignorance. And I think that a lot of that is like how my dad kind of raised us. Like he just, granted, like maybe a little more rough on the car than she was being, but like, that's the thing. It was like, you're doing these things in the long run, it's damage. I just don't think you know how people work. Like, I think you're so ignorant of how humans actually work that you're doing damage in the long run and you don't even know it. And then you're mad at people for pointing that out to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so I literally gave him a book on trauma. And I was like, read this, we should talk about it. And he just kind of laughed it off. And I'm like, I'm trying to give you a lifeline to maintain your relationship with the kids you have left. So
yeah,
but I couldn't bring myself to say that. And I just don't know. It's really hard to impress on him the seriousness of like, you need to start, if you think that we just didn't get you and all this was some big miscommunication and that's why things have gotten so bad between us. I have spent a long time trying to be a better communicator and I want to see some of that effort from you. Just anything, man. But I don't, and maybe it turns out he's not capable of that. And maybe I should just kind of like set better expectations about what kind of relationship we are.
You haven't given up on him yet. And I think that's beautiful.
Because you know what? I was him.
Well, if
they had given up on me, I could have died angry and sad the way that I feel like lives every day. He's just a little bit upset and he doesn't know how to express it. And I'm like, that was hell. And it almost killed me. And the fact that he has to go through it, it's not fair.
I know.
It's not fair. And I want so badly to help him.
You're a helper healer. Yeah. And you would love to help your dad. That's the other thing. It's not, the trauma book is not just about your relationship. You really would love to give your dad this gift.
Yeah.
The gift that you were given.
After you find your way out of this like hell, you just want to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
You just like, there's so many people in the world right now still suffering from this. And it's so unfair and I gotta do something. You can't just, I don't know, like maybe I still get kind of like low energy, a little bit depressed sometimes. And then like in those moments though, I just can't stop thinking like I'm going to get back to work because like I can't not do something about this. Like I know there's someone out there feeling this way too. And I know I can do something to like, and I can't save all of them, but like I know I can help.
We're doing our best.
Yeah. And that's how comedy plays into that and what I want to do with my comedy.
And that's what we want to do with Traumedy. So you were, okay, but I think, I was in the
ambulance
hospital,
and then while I'm living with my dad, I get like a temp job washing cars for like a car rental place.
So you go back to his
and then
house.
While I'm living there, and we hang out a little, but for the most part, we just like kind of avoid each other and kind of just we're pleasant, but we never talk about the past. I'm not trying to push his buttons.
Yeah. And can you just sit and watch a movie? Do you like same movie?
Yeah, we would watch, this was like when, I want to say this was when like Game of Thrones was still big and we would like watch Game of Thrones together and kind of talk about it. But
and then maybe listen to comedy or something. Our relationship is still, we don't talk about anything more serious than movies. And it's never even like, you can like, I'm so analytical. I love art. I love art so much. I love watching a movie and picking apart the themes. And like, do you see the choice the actor made there? Oh my God. Like the subtleness of that expression is brilliant. And when I talk about people who also love movies, that's how we talk. But usually when I talk with my dad, it's sort of, did you notice that one actor in that one thing? So good. And that's about as in depth as we go. And I'm like, because you are meeting him where he is at the moment.
Yeah. And usually, like, if I ever start really nerding out on art like that, he'll just kind of nod, but you can tell he kind of did. Like, I don't think he quite follows to where I'm going. But I'm just maybe more, and that's fine. I don't know. Maybe I'm definitely more obsessed with art than a lot of people. But anyway, especially like movies and TV and comedy, obviously.
Well, expression. So, because what we're doing, like, I think a lot of art expresses trauma.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Expresses.
Or you know what it is? So Pete Holmes is one of my favorite comedians, and he's been saying, like, I've heard on his podcast, he'll talk about like art is the most sensitive among us, doing their best to report on what it's like to be them. Like they're feeling these things much more deeply to the point where like regular language doesn't express it. And then they're trying to show other people what that's like. And even comedy, it's a very verbal art form, but you're like, you're you're framing a conversation, you're picking and choosing, you're giving it structure, you're showing people like what's weird about this thing that you always thought was normal, right? So that's the thing. Like if it was normal words, I could just tell you this thing is weird, but you wouldn't really see how weird it is to me. I have to pick it apart and arrange it so that you can be just as surprised that I am by everyday life. You know, like that's so much of comedy.
And for me, it's about connecting. Yeah. So that you and I have been through these things. Like I love Van Gogh. I love how the way he does, you know, here's this tortured, depressed, suicidal kind of person with these beautiful colors and just showing that.
I didn't realize I never appreciated Van Gogh until I saw one of his things in person. It's like it's 3D. The way that he globs colors together, it comes off the page at you. It's so much more than just like if you only looked at Van Gogh in a book, you haven't gotten the experience. You've got to see it in person.
I went to that Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam and I've always loved him, always. And I just always have felt it. I have felt it. You can feel that connection. You feel what they feel. I appreciate what you said about Pete Holmes and art and expression and why you like art.
It's very, very sensitive people try because, and if they could just say it in normal words, they would, but they're feeling it so deeply. They need to like show you a different way. And whether it's painting, whether it's music, even comedy, which comedy, if you do it really well, it looks like you're just talking, but like there's so much structure to it. So,
I mean, I'm going to continue to take it a little bit more into a different realm of like expressing it to get it so it's not just stuck inside. It's like expressing. Trauma makes an impression on you if you don't express it, and so you can become very ill, suicidal. I don't know.
All right, so actually speaking of so I was living with my dad, but like working really hard to get out of there quickly, and then I get my first job on an ambulance, which was kind of always my goal. A lot of people with traumatic pasts, and I talked about this a little bit like on the last week, it's when you have that sort of like sense of adrenaline and fear your whole life, a lot of people seek out similar patterns, right? You're like, oh, like I'm so used to trauma. And that was part of why I decided I wanted to be an EMT. It was like, nothing's going to traumatize me worse. And like always seeking that high stress sort of environment because that's just where I feel comfortable.
Familiar,
But so, and some of the best advice I ever got, I got in my interview for my first EMT job. And I'm in there with my future boss, and she gets to the end of the interview and asks me, so like, you know, as they do in interviews, do you have any questions for me? And I thought, and I was like, so what's something that makes someone excellent at this job versus just okay? And she's like, that's a really good question. I'm like, hell yeah, it is. Thank you, Google. Because right before I got there, I was like, I really need this job. I better Google good questions. I know she's going to ask.
That's so funny. I love that you admit that.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I was like, I mean, whatever. That still shows commitment to the job, right? I did research, so I would be good at this interview. I think I was an okay employee. So yeah, I asked her this question, and she's like, yeah, good question. So here's the thing, and this was for a one of these private companies here in Denver, and so we do like 911 stuff, like typical ambulance stuff. We also do a ton of just interfacility transfers and, you know, granny go homes. I don't know if you know about that terminology.
I like that. No, I hadn't heard that.
We call them granny go homes. Yeah. Where it's like, she fell, she hit her head, but then we did scans and it turns out she's okay. And now she's going back to the nursing home. But so anyway, that's the kind of job I'm applying for. And I asked her like, so what makes someone excellent at this job? She's like, yeah, good question. So a lot of people get into EMS because they want to be an action hero, right? They're thinking fires and car crashes. We do that. But sometimes the call you're going to do is just, it's like it's an older lady. She fell. Her family can't take care of anymore. And now you're discharging her from the hospital to a nursing home. She's going to a nursing home for the first time. She's losing her independence. Yeah. That for her is a huge day. If you can be just as kind to her, if you can hold her hand and make her feel comfortable, the same way you could someone that got pulled out of a car wreck. If you can do that for her, that's what's going to make you great and not just good.
Well, that touches my heart.
Amazing answer, right?
Yeah.
Like I was in that moment, like in my recovery, something tingled in the back of my brain. I was like, I think this is where I'm supposed to be. Like this is because I had gotten into this. It's like she called me out almost as like I had gotten into this job thinking, oh, I'm going to be fucking tough action hero. I've been through so much trauma already. Nothing's going to make me worse. And she's like, yeah, but, you know, what's really cool is caring about people. And I was like, oh, good point. Like, and so, I start working for this company. I stayed in the field for like a little over 4.5 years. And in that time, so I learned all this stuff, you know, in therapy, and I kind of got to put it into practice. This sort of like, just being able to stay calm in myself. I tell stories about, and this is all in my stand-up, and I'm almost done with like my first hour, and I want it to be this story of like developing PTSD and then working on the ambulance. And in so many ways, because of these tools I had, it got better. And a lot of people get their PTSD on the ambulance. So it's a weird place for me to start, like trial by fire kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I was able to, sort of take care of myself better. So the big thing, like physical health. But I remember when I started on the ambulance, and I was and this happens with a lot of like former addicts, work becomes their new addiction. And that was me. Like, I was like, I'll pick up every extra shift. I'll be here every day. I don't care if I'm working like 60 hours a week, whatever. Like, I have nothing better to do. And so I'm putting in all these shifts, but at a certain point, I start relying, like at one point I drank like 4 Monster energy drinks in a day just because I had to come in 6 hours early. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to do it. But then, I mean, I could feel my heart beating out of my chest, and I go in the back. I put the blood pressure cuff on. I'm a 25-year-old kid. I've got like a 145/91. Right. And for people that don't know what that means, that's the blood pressure of a kind of unhealthy 50-year-old. And I'm like 25. So I'm like, I need to chill. That was also one of the reasons I started doing other things. I started getting hobbies. That was part of what got me into comedy. So even that's though a skill where I can self-assess. I can realize like, oh, I'm starting to push myself too hard. And so I need to like start balancing this out. I need to slow down. So even that was a big step for me. Yeah.
I love that you have the medical training too, to do like a head to toe assessment.
I was able to look at myself.
I mean, that does help.
Yep.
Like to get that biofeedback that you don't know, like you don't realize you're damaging your body.
And learning to be kind to people when they're having one of the worst days of their life. Very important, because if I can be kind to them on their worst day, I can start to be kind to myself on my bad days. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
I learned, thing about medical work, and I know you know this, you're probably going to get smacked at one point. And it's funny because I got smacked as a kid, devastating, because I blamed myself. I felt so much shame. I felt so disconnected with my dad. And here's the thing, and I do stand up about this. I don't want to give the whole bit away, but like, anyone that works in medicine can verify this. You can tell people this is 100% true. Nobody punches harder than confused old ladies. They do. You don't expect it from them, but I think it's once their mind starts to go, they just don't care. Like they don't hold back. And also I think it is because you don't expect it. Like some 300-pound meth head, he's going to get all aggro and he's going to threaten you first. And then it's like, okay, well, you're not just fighting me. You're fighting me and 8 of my closest friends. Get ready for that. But that's the thing. Most people don't actually want to like attack you. They just want to get their way, right? They just want, so anyone who's going to like, they're usually going to make threats. They're going to start to like, their posture will show it. Like they almost never surprise you. Confused old ladies though, you don't expect it. She can be sitting there smiling. They're like, oh yeah, she's like A&O times 1 to 2. She just kind of like nods and whatever. And then you go to touch her and she just bam, like out of nowhere with all the strength and rage of that PCP guy, like the excited delirium. I think it's that. Like they just don't care. They don't know, like they don't care if it kills them. They're going to give you everything left, you know? So like, that's the thing though. So I got hit at that job. I was in threatening situations, but you know what? I was able to see it coming a lot of the time. I didn't blame myself. Nobody blamed me. Nobody, like no old lady hit me and then some nurse come up like, it's because you suck. Like no one ever did that. So it's like,
you had that emotional distance and
so that's the thing. And I also have a joke about how like physical pain without emotional pain can actually be really funny. That's why we have My Generation as Jackass. That show was just a bunch of buddies beating the crap out of each other, and they made it look so fun. MTV had to put up a warning like, hey guys, don't do, I know punching each other in the nuts looks like the most fun anyone's ever had, but don't do it. These are trained nut punching professionals.
I'm a nut punching professional.
Yeah, and before Jackass, it was America's Funniest Home Videos. Before that, I mean, it's physical comedy, slapstick is based around like, oh, if we're not actually worried if everyone's okay, someone getting smacked in the head's kind of funny. But then you add the emotional component and it's devastating. Like when we think like, oh, there's abuse going on, when the person getting hit is made to feel ashamed, like not only does this physically hurt you, but it's because you're bad, you're sneaky, you're wrong, you'll never get any better. Like that part is the part that gave me PTSD. Just getting punched. I got punched a couple times on the ambulance. But I had people that had my back, people that supported me.
I think too, as long as they're not physically life-threatening. I mean, that can kind of get a slippery slope on the PTSD if it's actually something.
Fair enough. Yep. So there was a lot of just realizing that like being, and this is like the main thesis of my kind of first hour of comedy that I'm working on, is that being in danger is one thing, but if we're given the support to heal, if we're able to connect with our feelings, if we're able to connect with other people, that makes so much difference in whether trauma turns into PTSD. Because trauma, I compare this, so to use a physical analogy, trauma is like when you break your leg. That can happen to anybody. But most of the time, hopefully, you can get to medical help. They set the bone and it's allowed to heal. PTSD is like if you break your leg, but it's not safe. It's not safe to get help. You don't have time to rest. And so you just kind of walk on it and now it heals weird.
Yeah.
And now it hurts with every step. That's the stress. Your body is under more stress now because that break didn't heal right. It's constantly causing you pain. And it can even get to the point where if someone tries to touch it to help you, oh, it's very sensitive. Don't go near that. Don't help me. That sort of, that's how the disorder really plays out over time. It's not just about the break. It's about how did the break heal and what sort of compensations did you build around the break to compensate for the fact that you can't walk normal now?
Yeah.
Right?
But I think it's also how did the break happen? You know,
well, that's part of it.
Yeah, because like I have a friend who was walking and there was a tarp that he thought was stretched over the ground.
Yeah.
And he was walking across the ground. Well, it turned out it was a 10-foot hole.
Oof.
And he fell and broke his back.
Yep.
And it was just, the disorienting, the blindsiding. That was not an emotional connection, but it was a trust violation of the way that this construction crew did that. And
I can't believe no sign or anything.
Oh, it was, it was a fluke. It was the weirdest dang thing that they had to stop abruptly. It started raining and they stretched this tarp. And
interesting.
Anyway, it was just an awful thing. But that's one example. And then another one is this, if somebody in a position of trust hurt your leg. Also, I've heard with like soldiers, PTSD actually comes from like if the medic doesn't take care of them properly, that they target the medic.
Well, and the thing with a war zone is often not only do you get injured, but like if you're able, they're going to try and put you back in service. And even if they don't, well, so now you've got all this identity built in around about being a killing machine, and now you've been taken out of commission. So now your identity's been messed with. Also, there's been, I was reading about having a connected childhood. So if you were raised in a way that supported you emotionally, you're much less likely to develop PTSD, even places like a war zone. Yeah. Whereas people that just kind of feel alone and like they have to do it alone, and now you're injured, and so you're no longer able to fight for yourself, and you feel utterly disconnected. So you have nothing to fall back on. You have no community to support you. Yeah. And also the way that we treat veterans when they get home, that's another, I don't even have time to get on that soapbox.
No,
right
I know.
Now.
But I just wanted to say that
our veterans properly.
I heard you. I want you to feel heard, and that I heard you about what you were saying about how it heals.
Yeah.
But I also know there's some of it.
And the nature of the break. Fair. Some breaks don't heal as well as others.
Well, how it happened, and also what happened right when it happened, because I really have read about people who they are more angry and more triggered by the paramedic, not the paramedic, the medic in the army than the enemy. The enemy that wounded them, it's more the guy that didn't take care of them. That for whatever reason, their PTSD is targeted at the guy that didn't. That's the proximal person who they felt like was supposed to help. Anyway, I just wanted to say it's a very complex
Well, and that's
thing.
Still I think kind of like speaks to my larger point of like, what you go through isn't what necessarily going to make you carry it with you. Like just the trauma is bad, but like a lot of people heal from trauma and some people don't. So why is that? And a lot of it,
and that's
it's not just what you go through, it's all these other things surrounding it, all these other assumptions and beliefs. And just different other things that can then develop into something more malignant. Whereas, just the physical injury itself is not what makes for it. And also, like, societally, we're all a little traumatized now. We all live in this weird, stressful, unnatural environment. This, working the way that we do is like very disconnected from sort of like our evolutionary biological roots. And so the constant stress that we're under, and like you probably know a lot about stress.
The phone and like the connect that I can hit a button and then I have access to an infinite number of people. Yeah. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. To especially as someone sensitive to other people's suffering, and then you read about like something that's happening in Ukraine or Palestine, and you feel that so deeply, and yet it's so far away. Like you have a lot of this stuff is systemic, and like, where does your power come from? And this is why so many people online are so angry, is because it's at least anger is an empowering feeling. There's all this information. I can't focus on all of that. I'm just going to focus in on this one thing that feels real. And then I feel like I can take action, even if it's just commenting and telling this guy he's an idiot, even if it's just clicking share before I've really evaluated the information. Anger is the drug of our era. And we'll actually get into that in a sec. So I'm working. I worked on the ambulance, and like using things that I've learned, I was able to start to sort of put my mind back together in a way. And a big moment for me.
Heal some of your PTSD.
Big time. Another really big, not just one moment, but a series of moments was actually, I saw some people die. Most of the people though that die in this country, it's because they got old. And that's huge. For all of our faults that we have as a society, and there are many, we should be supremely grateful and proud of the fact that most children who are born are going to live until they get old. And then, you develop a chronic condition and it kind of gets worse. And then one day, boom, it gets much worse. And from there, it's kind of a matter of time. That's how most people die in this country. And that's actually kind of awesome in a way. Like I had never, as somebody who grew up sort of imagining my own death, and I was always like, it's going to be drugs or violence. There's no other way out for me. And then I saw a happy ending for like the first time. I was like, we took hospice patients and we get them to their home or to the hospice center, and they're surrounded by family, and the family is holding their hand. And they're like, hey, like you've been fighting for so long, and we're so grateful that you fought to be with us. But if you want to let go, it's okay. And just, I get like, I get like choked up a little bit thinking about it. Cause it's like, that's so, if death has to be a part of this experience that we call life, that's the way to do it. Like, and I never thought it was one of those tunnel vision things where it's like, oh yeah, that's like, if I saw that on TV, I'd be like, it's because it's a story, you know, but
I've helped people transition.
Yeah.
And I have to say it changed my life. It's how I started stand up. I started stand up because of what a dying person told me.
Wow.
And my goal became to die with peace.
Yeah.
Like that person was at peace.
Yeah.
And that's a weird life goal, but that was my life goal. And I worked backwards. Like, how did they get there?
That's not a weird life goal. That is the life goal. Whatever else you have to do to make that happen, because in order to do that, while you're here on earth, you're going to be forming good relationships. You're going to be making sure that you add something to society, that you are internally at peace with yourself, that you are able to, like have a family, have good relationships. By the time, in order to truly die at peace, I think there's so many good things you have done on earth that if you make that your only goal in life, I think everything else will kind of fall together. Kind of. I mean, if you're going to have one addiction, it's to the thought of when I go, it will be maybe not without any regret, but to understand even the regrets are there for a reason. I did what I was here to do.
Yeah. And
that's everything.
Fulfilled. Like I've honored my life purpose.
Perfect.
And I hear what you're saying about, like, some people want to have a family. Not everybody wants to have a family, but whatever it is.
Family's a flexible term.
Or even like with your dad, like, or people that have like, you know what? I just want to live in a little cottage and feed the squirrels.
Yeah.
And I just want to love the little trees outside of my house. If you know, like maybe like your dad, you were saying in the previous episode, like his limitation is, oh gosh, it turns out I don't know how to connect with people on a deep level.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have lived as a bachelor and specialized in this one area that I did well.
Yeah.
And so that's also a life fulfilled. Mm-hmm. It's just...
Well, and that's why, like family's a loose term to me, because it's like, I think people, you don't necessarily need to have kids or anything like that, but you do need to, I think we need community. I don't know, even people that are very sort of introverted or whatever, it's like, but you need to be connected to someone. And that also, and connected to yourself as well. That's another big thing.
And I'm hearing you, and I'm just also open to like, whatever it is, we are interdependent beings. So we really do need each other at least. But some people do live as hermits if they could. And I feel like there's probably a path that is the hermit's path that we don't understand. Yeah. We don't know what work they're doing, that their consciousness is impacting the world. Is it okay? I'm just interjecting here and there and going, hey, I'm going to broaden the definition for me of PTSD, just from my point of view. And then I'm going to broaden the definition of like a life well lived.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's all extremely valid. Like there's no maybe one right way to do it, but I do think that there is a sort of sense of like, I mean, and that's a meditation technique that I've been taught, is like, imagine yourself at the end of your life. What do you want to have said about your life? Like what regrets do you want to have maybe? And what regrets do you want to avoid? And like, just start planning it in terms of like, and that does help you bring clarity on what you're doing now. Like, because, and it's really important, I think, to remember that we'll die, because like, we do have limited time on this earth. Like get busy living, because you will die eventually.
It's a short ride,
important
man.
To think about.
I'm guessing twice your age, and then it's amazing how fast it went. I remember my 20s really well, and it's just like, whoa, I can't believe I got here already. Yeah. We agree. It's whatever your calling is, whatever your purpose, whatever it feels like when you know yourself, and like, and those can change over the decades. Like, I'm in my service in a different way in my 20s than I am in my 60s. and that whatever that is. Okay.
Some of the key lessons I learned, like, dealing with stress, dealing with, being there for other people. Finally, like the confidence that I built on that ambulance, and I got in, I was so scared, dude. They say this about EMS is that they eat their young, and it's true. Like, it's hard being the new guy in that environment I very much understand the dudes who had to train me, and then eventually I got good enough that I was training people. And it's like, think about, or anybody listening, like, think about the most awkward new person you had at your job, and now imagine those screw-ups they had could kill someone.
Yeah, people's lives are on the line.
They didn't just accidentally overcharge someone's credit card. They dropped someone on their head. Like, oh no, that happened to people I worked with. It didn't happen to me. Thank God.
Yeah, or med-air. In nursing school, there is I
what
talk
if you
about
mess up a medication?
I totally talk about shame-based nursing school, but when that nurse is yelling at me, you're contaminating the field when I'm suctioning a trach, it really is her fear. Like, you can kill someone with a lung disease. Yeah. So I joke about it, but that's my way of getting that out of my system.
And I joke about it too, but actually, and there is something comforting about, like, if you're going to yell at me, at least I know it's for a reason. Like, I've been yelled at for so many stupid reasons in my life. And like, when I was a teenager, I had like a couple fast food jobs, and let me tell you, people are still going to yell at you at work, but it's for dumb. Like, if someone comes in and yells at me and they're just like, oh, you gave my kid the wrong toy, they already have this one. Like, I'm supposed to know that, like I have any control. Like, I don't, and they're yelling at me for that. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, how hard is your life that this is what you care about? Whereas on the ambulance, it's almost comforting in a way when someone's yelling at me. I'm like, how hard is your life? Well, if you're singing at me at work, probably pretty hard. I can give you a pass on that one. You're right. It's okay if you want to yell. Honestly, I would yell too. Like, if you're going to treat this like life or death, it's almost reassuring in a way that it is in fact life or death. Like, it's weird. Yeah. Like, if you're going to be stressed, good. At least there's a reason that you're stressed. Whereas like taking abuse as a fast food worker, I'm just like, I don't care. I just don't. You're trying so hard to make me care, but look at you. You're screaming about a toy or about your fries are the wrong size, or like, I could have fixed it for you by now, but you really just got to stand here and yell. Oh my God. Like, that was, there was a lot. Yeah. Stress management, learning that there was in fact a path forward, a way to build a happy life where it could end peacefully. Learning, that it's possible to go through things that are, genuinely, potentially life-alteringly horrible, but if you've got a good support network, and if you've got a good belief in yourself, and if you've got a good, like, if I'm able to, build self-awareness, I can actually get through much harder things than I ever thought I could. Part of that, self-confidence problem I had was like, I got addicted to drugs before I even had a house to lose over it. You know what I mean? Like, I was a kid. Like, I never even made it.
Precocious, that's for sure.
I never even made it. Yeah. I was actually ahead of the curve. That's what I was. So many of my addictions, there are so many of my friends that got addictions later in life. Like, they're learning from me now because I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there.
How old were you when you were sharing earlier, and I sort of took it back over here with the hospice, but you were getting emotional and saying, like seeing somebody dying with people around them saying, if you're ready to go, go.
Yeah.
How old were you then? Were you in your mid-20s?
Yeah, like mid to late 20s. So I started on the ambulance when I was 24, and I was on there for about 4.5 years. So I was like 28, 29.
That is so fascinating.
Right?
Yeah, that's exactly the same time frame I was doing the hospice work. And that mortality, like, even though you may have been thinking earlier, like you're only going to live to 21, but the reality of your mortality that hits you, like, even if you're not suicidal, you are going to die, and it is out of your control to some degree. If I just remember those feelings of like, whoa, I am going to die. Yeah. What do I wish I'd done?
And that's why, I don't recommend necessarily everyone with PTSD go work on an ambulance as a way to cure it. In fact, that's where a lot of people get it. And this is something I want to be an advocate for the rest of my life. One of the reasons that I was able to face this and actually have my PTSD get better was because I was primed with so much therapy and self-work, and that, like, I had so many resources going into it that now I was able to put them in practice, and it almost in some ways accelerated my healing. However, there is in some ways a toxic culture still around medical work and EMS in particular. It's a very straight male dominated job. It's a very macho, we don't talk about our feelings type of job. A lot of the time, using the broken leg analogy, a lot of the time we're not given time to heal. A lot of
shutdown.
Yeah, you go through some real hard stuff, and you're not allowed to. You don't really feel comfortable talking about it, and so much of it is like, hey, how soon can you get back to work? And that's not great. That's not really not good for you. This is why so many people get PTSD on jobs like ambulances, is because it's not just the stuff they're going through. Once again, like, big thesis for my first hour. I really want to stress to people, it's not just what they're going through, but so much of the culture, so much of the expectation, so much of the beliefs around it. Yeah. We're not really given proper time to heal.
Yeah.
And this is why, and I mean, like suicide
and
among
tools,
EMS
time
is
and
much
tools,
higher.
time and tools. Because I do believe in, I mean, trauma therapy, I can't say it enough, and I'm going to say it just from my experience. There's no cognitive intellectual process that helps you the way that EMDR, brain spotting, or in my case, psychedelic trauma therapy, that transcends the conscious mind that gets, because it's down in that midbrain fight, flight, freeze place. You know?
And it's weird. It's almost like, your weird little traumas that you store away almost have a consciousness of their own, almost have and this is where like getting into sort of like the more spiritual woo-woo stuff, which we're going to do in a minute. I think that that's where like we talk about like evil spirits and demons and things that haunt people. I think a lot of that is like you compartmentalize this weird little bit of emotion, and that emotion then has defense mechanisms around it. So it's almost like a little creature of its own.
Yeah.
It defends itself. It evades detection. It's like a little demon. It's sitting in there poking you and bothering you, but then you look at it and it disappears, and you got to do little tricks to draw it out, almost like an exorcism or a ritual.
Yes,
right.
I love this analogy because I always picture it, and I always say it's kind of near the hippocampus and the hypothalamus, and picture it encapsulated, and you cannot access it for a reason, because it helped you survive back in the day when I hate to use the saber-toothed tiger analogy, but
that's a great one.
But it is perfect. But it's it's overused, but it's so perfect. Like it's like, here's how we got away from that, and now that is hardwired that you respond so quickly. It's like you just know how to evade that problem. It's counterintuitive to try and heal, because it's there to help. It's supposed to help you survive, but it actually.
Well, and that's why, and they're so hard to confront, and that's why like the really scary demonic imagery that we have in our culture is like, because when you try and finally trap this thing and confront it, it feels like you are dying, because that's what it was like there to prevent. Like it's instituted by such a feeling of pain or rage or fear, or just like the
terror.
Strongest.
The word terror, I would say.
The strongest, most negative emotions that is possible for a person to feel somehow got sort of lumped into this little entity, and now it's just like a part of you. And originally you let it in because it was there to defend you, but now it's gone malignant. Now it's become its own little thing, and it's got its own sort of drive to keep existing.
Yes, and it wants you to work around it constantly.
And to try and confront it means feeling literally as bad as you could possibly feel again. And that's really hard.
Terrified.
This is why I'm like worried about, like, I really want to try and help my dad, but when I think about all that I had to go through, all the demons that I had to confront, and when I think like at his age, asking him to go through what I went through, obviously I think it's worth it. But like, man, if I knew up front how hard it was going to be, would I still have done it?
That's the thing. I don't know. I think that there are growth-oriented people, and there are people that aren't growth-oriented, and I'm guessing he's not a growth-oriented person.
No, well, and he's also able to sort of skate by now. Like he's developed
this
sort
worked
of
his whole life around it.
He's got his path, Whereas me, I was forced into a situation where it's like confront this or die.
Yeah.
And so finally, and I could have chose either way, and I kind of got lucky in some ways and chose confront. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but my brother did not. So, Well, so real quick, I'll talk about, so while I'm working on the ambulance, now I've built some of this confidence, and I want to do comedy. It's something I've always wanted to do my entire life. And part of, when I took my blood pressure and was like, ooh, I need a hobby. This comedy was that for me. I was like, that seems like a great sort of way to, like, I've always wanted to do this. And I started going to like meetups. I don't know if you know, like meetup.com.
Yeah.
Great for people. Like if you're in recovery, it's something I'd recommend, because like I had to ditch pretty much all my old friends. So now maybe I've got like a few buddies at work, but I don't really know who I want to hang out with. And I'm like, what are my interests? And you go, Meetup is like social media, but it's based around actually getting together with people in, doing activities together. And I started doing movie groups. I started doing comedy groups, nerd stuff, stuff that I had always wanted to do, but I was like always a little stifled. And I was like, whatever, I'll start exploring who I am. And like, I started doing comedy. Well, first I started going to local shows, and Denver is full of talented people. I was blown away. I was like, this is some no-name dude that I've never heard of that is like crushing. And I was like, it was intimidating at first. It took me a while to get started, but then like, luckily I started going to more like to open mics and lurking and realizing like, oh no, I saw that same guy. I remember I saw, Zach Moss. Yeah. I saw him bomb one time, and I was like, thank God. Because he was trying out some new stuff. And I'd seen him at another show where he destroyed. And then luckily I went to an open mic and I saw him, and I was like, oh, good. You don't have to be perfect right away. Thank God. So And then I started kind of performing a little bit. When I started, I wanted to be George Carlin. Classic beginner's mistake. So many beginning comics come in and they're like, I'm going to share my opinions about why everything's bullshit and people are going to clap for me. And then they don't. Oh, it's so painful. I see it. I see it all the time. New comics do this a lot. But luckily, I at least had enough perseverance to be like, okay, clearly I've misjudged. I need to take a step back and learn how to write a joke. And so like for the next couple years, I was doing it and I was just learning how to like just talk about stuff that doesn't matter that much. And then I started getting into more stuff that did start to matter to me. And I started doing sort of like educational comedy, this like through Nerd Night. Nerd Night's an awesome local show here in Denver too, by the way. Last Friday of every month at the Bug Theater. Go check them out.
Oh, cool.
And it's sort of like TED Talks. And I was like, oh, I can do research around this thing that I really like. And then I can
And people are here for it.
And naturally, because I've been working on comedy, I'll start to write jokes about it. And then I started to realize like, oh, some of these harder things, it's good to start with research and figure out what I want to talk about. And then the jokes, at this point, my brain is kind of wired for just making everything a joke and I can find the humor in it. And so that's another way that like actually comedy is really great for processing trauma is like as you learn this stuff and you realize.
Yeah, that's the therapeutic humor.
Yeah, you start to realize the weird little contradictions. And you're like, so when I learned about trauma and I realized like, oh, so much of this is like a weird contradictory little part of my brain. Like it's actually funny.
Yeah.
Once you're able to distance yourself from the sheer fear of it all, you're able to look at like people being afraid can be funny. Dude, think about how much of like Kevin Hart's career is based on him just going, like, you know, like, cause it's funny to watch him freak out a little bit. And it's like, once you, I don't know, like in some ways comedy is medicine, maybe, but it's for sure a part of the healing process.
Yeah.
As you start to learn about these things, as you start to distance yourself from a little bit psychologically, you're able to look at them objectively and realize the weird little contradictions that live within us all.
Yeah.
And in that gap between expectation and reality, that's where humor grows. So I love that. Like that's, and comedy has ended up being a very therapeutic thing for me.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah.
Well, and on that happy note, now we have to be really sad again.
Okay.
While I'm going through all this, so I'm let's see, I'd been working on the ambulance maybe 2-ish years. I'm starting to get established. I've started taking improv. Like my life is kind of starting to blossom. My brother, he's kind of dropped out of college. We didn't super get along growing up. Like it was, I mean,
how much younger is he than you?
2.5 years.
So pretty close in age.
Fairly. Yeah. And he watched what happened to me growing up with my dad. So I don't think my dad, I don't know. I heard some stories about maybe one or two times where like my brother got hit, but, and I wasn't super nice to him either. So for the most part, we mostly kind of avoided each other like that. And really all the people in the house, we ended up being kind of isolated from each other and just sort of, because there was the idea of like, don't make too much noise. You don't want to set him off. For my dad. And so we just sort of avoided each other a lot, but then
go off in your own corners.
Yeah. Just kind of stay in our rooms or like, even if we're like around each other, just not a lot of intimacy, man, my dad, I remember like he would insist that we had family dinner together, but if we ever started joking or having too much fun, he was like, shut up and eat your food, you know, like that kind of just, yeah. So we never quite bonded as kids, but like now as adults, I mean, we'd hung out, we did drugs together a few times, like before I got clean. And so, yeah, and I knew that he was starting to get into drugs and stuff as well. But like at the time when I first knew this, I was also into drugs and didn't really care. But anyway, he kind of dropped out of school, didn't know what to do with his life. And he asked if we could move in together, which I was a little bit surprised because like we didn't really get along that well. But I was like, yeah, I mean, that's a good situation. I could kind of use a roommate. It'd be really good. Especially like I'm trying to start out as an artist. I need the extra money. Shoot, if I can save on rent. So we moved in together and slowly at first and more it became apparent over time that he was dealing with a lot of stuff that I had dealt with. He was actually I was much more of a polysubstance. I didn't care what drug I was on. He was a heavy drinker, and it didn't happen all at once, you know, like it would kind of get better, it would kind of get worse, but like I noticed he was going through this stuff. I noticed also that he was like the self-harm on this dude, man. He was a self-harmer, he was a cutter. Like when people think of child abuse, like one of the clearest cut signs, like someone who's been burned by a cigarette, never a reason to do that to a kid. Someone who's got a cigarette burn on them, clearly abused. My dad though, never did anything like that to us, but psychologically, like if you could have seen the scars on my brother, not to like minimize this, but like it's fairly common. A lot of people like on their thighs, on their wrists, they've got like the razor blades, you know, the little thin scars from a razor blade. He had thick 4-inch long, just big One of them, I thought he must have burned himself with like a hair curler because it was this big, round, just giant freaking scar on
like
his
a
arm.
huge keloid, as we say in the healthcare.
Real big, raised, just. And so you think like, and that's, my dad didn't even have to do that to him, but my brother believed that he deserved it. He believed that life was so painful. The only way he could distract himself was to do that to himself.
Yeah.
So people that think that like, oh, emotional abuse, is that even real abuse? Yes.
It's actually, I think, in way worse.
Yeah. Far worse. And this is what I was talking about earlier. The physical violence. It plants
a seed of self-hate in you that you end up doing the abuse
He ended up torturing himself.
Yeah.
Like big old scars, nasty. Yeah. I remember he went like on a trip to the Grand Canyon with my mom. And he was wearing this is Arizona in the summer, and he's wearing long sleeves the whole time because he is, like mutilated, like just. And so when people think like, oh, like you think like a cigar burn is bad, imagine having your kid feel so unloved and so unwanted. The only way they can distract themselves from the pain is to do that to themselves. Like it's torture.
Yeah.
It's
controlling their own pain in a way too.
There's
right?
and we could get on a whole tangent about why that's a release for people.
Yeah, and it's
and that's another, we got to throw a trigger warning on this one.
Yeah, trigger warning.
Self-harm is hard.
And I'll try and find a resource to put in the show links about cutting and self-harm.
But I want to talk about it though, because first of all, it happened. This is a real thing. People do deal with this, and also because like if you are going through it. Know that you're first and foremost, you're not alone, that this is something that does happen to people, that it's not your fault, that if someone made you feel this way, fuck that person. You deserve better. I don't care who you are listening to this. If you feel the need to harm yourself because of how someone else made you feel, you did not deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and watching him go through that, it wasn't, some days he'd get better, some days he'd get worse. We'd occasionally get in fights over stuff. Like he wanted to get a dog to take care of. He kind of thought that would help him, but I'm like, dude, you don't take care of yourself. Like, let's be real. I'm going to end up taking care of this dog. Like, and at this point, my life is getting more stable. And we would like fight about things like that. He would do things like he would like smash things. He would start acting kind of more and more like our dad, really, except our dad actually, ironically, not a drinker. Angry, crazy dude. But then one of his things was like, but like, I don't drink, so I'm the reasonable one. Like my mom would get like a little drunk sometimes, but at least she never like freaked out. But his whole thing was like, alcohol makes people make bad decisions, not realizing that like, he's so full of it. Anyway. And it's like, dude, you already, I guess it's good he didn't also drink. That could have been bad, but
might have made him nicer. You never know. I'm just saying, my dad, he was the most emotionally accessible and smiled and played his guitar and sang Roger Miller songs and had a couple of drinks in the evening. And I'm going to say it. I mean, sometimes alcohol actually can be a medication.
Well, and it is and that's why you get started on it. Is it because at first it actually works?
For my dad, he was able.
First, it'll do what you want it to do.
Yeah, I'm not saying
over time.
But my dad, like, and it was that he was not growth oriented. My dad he had this 2-hour respite, and I enjoyed it too because he was more available. But not everybody is. But anyway, your dad being pompous about the fact that you never used alcohol, and it's but you abused your children with rage.
And this is where, like, all right, well, I think we talked a little bit before off podcast about how like religion is for people who fear hell, spirituality is for people who have been through it, right? I think we mentioned that. Hell is watching someone you love slowly destroy themselves and the whole time believing they deserve it. That's my hell. He thinks he deserves all this crap that's happening to him. Here's the hardest part is everything he's gone through, I've gone through. I was destroying my body with alcohol. I was destroying my mind. I really believed that I deserved nothing good in life and that the best thing would be to die. I was suicidal. I know everything that he's going through. I'm watching him go through it. I'm trying to help him and it's not working. There's nothing worse. Like alcoholism, I mean, and anyone that's been through it will know this. Like it's like watching your loved one like try and kill themselves by drinking bleach. But the bleach doesn't kill you right away. It takes years. Destroyed his body, destroyed his mind, like ate him up from the inside out. And it's also the only thing he knows to try and make himself feel better because he already felt like he was dying anyway. Like when you drink that much, like he's developing physical symptoms. He can't eat. His sleep is all messed up. I mean, I don't know how much of this story I even want to tell. Like I came home one time, there's like a trail of blood from the trash can to his room because he had cut himself on a glass. And then I go into his room and I had to debate because I'm like, if he's not dying in there, he's going to be so mad at me for interfering. Like, you know, like, and there's blood on the floor, and I had to pause outside his room.
You're
like,
toggling.
What do I do? And I'm like, well, if he does die, I'm not going to be able to forgive myself. So I go in, and there's just blood smeared on the floor. He tried to kind of clean it up, but then he's passed out on his bed. There's puke on the bed. His fingers are split. And I'm looking at him, and I have medical training. And this is, I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, they're starting to swell. And once again, debating, like, do I even wake him up to go to the hospital? Because he's going to give me no end of hell for this. And I do try and wake him up and get him to go to the hospital. I had to do a sternal rub, which if anyone doesn't work in medicine knows, I couldn't wake him up. I couldn't shake him awake. Like, he is passed out. I mean, there's puke on the bed that he's like in. And so I'm like, yeah, this guy is so drunk. And I basically you put your knuckles on someone's sternum, like right on the bone, on their chest bone, and you rub it real hard. And it doesn't do damage, but it's like, you're going to notice that. If you're not dead, you're going to notice that. And he kind of comes around to that, but still not much. And I'm telling him, buddy, we got to get you to the hospital. You know, he doesn't want to go. And I was even then considering, like, do I take him? Like, I don't know, like, his fingers are swelling. I'm worried about them getting infected. He definitely needs stitches.
That's that family dysfunction of
even though I'm trying to help, am I going to be punished for this?
Yeah.
And then, the kicker though, the kicker for me was he's at this point, he's been in and out of like the hospital a couple times, and like, he's got different medications prescribed for different psych issues. And I'm looking at his bottles. One of them's a benzo. So it's like Xanax for people that don't like, and Xanax and booze. And I'm thinking, I just had to do 2 sternal rubs on this guy just to get him to come around. I'm like, if he's been mixing those, he might be overdosing right now. So that was the final clicker. I'm like, I got to call 911. I'm not going to. And then the next morning he's back and he's mad at me because he's like, those aren't even benzos. I put a different medication in that bottle. I'm like, cool. Like, I'm supposed to know that. Like, yeah, really? Like, no. So in my mind, I like had to call, and like, it's, I don't know, maybe it's like kind of embarrassing. Like, it's weird because like the guys who came to get him, I've worked with, like, dude, for Station 42 over at, for South Metro Fire. That's one of the stations that my company covers. So like, I've worked, I even asked him when I came in, I was like, oh yeah, where are you from? They're like, 42. I'm like, hell yeah, 42. I know you guys. Yeah. I know. But you have several times I had to call 911 for him.
Yeah.
Several. And there were times also in the beginning when he was suicidal, my mom, I would try and tell her and she didn't believe me. And I was like, we need to get him help. And she's like, I don't know, like I would describe like how he threw a fit over not getting a dog and like smashed my coffee mug into the wall. And she was just like, you guys, you didn't always get along growing up. You'll work it out. You'll be good buddies one day. And I'm like, no, he's freaking out. And like, I would like in his room, he's got books on suicide and stuff like that, like in his room. And I'm trying to tell her this. She doesn't believe me. One day though, he finally gets really drunk and he like calls an old friend from school and kind of tells him he's been thinking about this. Now, finally, my mom believes me. That's the first time he goes to the hospital. Would not be the last, like not just the injury time, but like several times I would find things that indicated to me like, okay, he's not only super drunk, but I'm pretty sure he's making plans. Like I found things, and I won't get into too many details, but like I found paraphernalia in his room where like as an EMT, I'm like, I know what that means. I know that this means he's about to try and do something. But the thing is, when I went to the rehab for the first time, took to it pretty well. Went down pretty hard, but then when I was in the hospital, I was like, that was my last, like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to live my life. But he went to rehab a couple times. He went to the hospital a couple times.
In the time he lived with you?
Yeah.
Or after this?
I don't think he ever went to the hospital before we lived together. Rehab a couple times, hospital a couple times, every time because one time he went to rehab voluntarily, but every other time it was because he was like kind of forced to. And so, yeah, I kept trying to help him. And all this to say, like, hell is real. I knew exactly how much pain he was in. I tried to help him over and over and over. And I'm just watching these chemicals and his self-hate just eat him up from the inside. You want to talk about like people believe in the devil? Like, dude, that's the devil. If there is a devil, that is it. Yeah. Something that makes people believe life is pain, life is awful. Not only that, I deserve it. And I'm just going to slowly let myself die over it. And then in 2022, finally, he killed himself. So he took some poison. And this was like, I don't know, man. I didn't see it. I kind of didn't see it coming, weirdly enough. Like over the years, I had been trying to take care of this kid and like help him get better, and he'd get better. He'd get worse. He went back to school at one point.
Sometimes
and then he just kept getting worse. And then finally, actually like a couple days before it happened, I heard him like huffing air duster. And I was like, here we go again, but I was like, some part of me believed, because I got better. I was like, he's going to get better. Like, this is going to be hard, but I'm going to support him. And sooner or later he's going to make it. And then like we had, I thought, an okay talk like a couple days before it happened. And I tried to kind of tell him, and one thing that he kept repeating, and it bothers me so much. It was straight out of my dad's mouth. I was like, there's a reason that you feel this way. And part of it was how we were raised. And he just got this distant look, and he just kept being like, it couldn't have been that bad. Other people have it worse. And that's something our dad used to tell us. Anytime we had a complaint, he'd just sit there and he'd go, well, be grateful. Other people have it worse, And my brother internalized that.
He internalized it.
He was like, no matter what I've been through, no matter how it made me feel, I have no right to complain.
He couldn't find compassion for himself.
Right.
And I'm so sorry for the loss, but also for what you must go through, saying that you didn't see it coming. And I know, I'm imagining how has this been for you?
I did and I didn't, because it was like, there was I remember, and it sucks. Like, I know what I put my mom through when I was going through this.
How are you dealing with this? Like, how are you right? Do you have compassion for yourself around this, or do you blame yourself?
Oh, so, all right. Day that it happened, I was the one who found him. I was kind of glad it was me, because my mom was like, hey, I haven't heard from him today. Can you check on him? He'd barricaded his room, so it was hard to get in. And then as soon as I saw him, I knew. Like, I was in denial though. And so I went up and I tried to shake him. This time the sternal rubs don't work. And I kind of like this time should I not call 911 was much faster. I was like, okay, this is real bad. I was hoping, but in my mind, I'm like, maybe I just the worst. Like, I tried taking a pulse and I didn't feel anything, and I'm just in denial. And I'm like, maybe I'm just the worst EMT ever. Maybe I just missed the pulse.
Yeah.
I have to admit
when it's a family member.
Like, it's so different. This is different. Not my first body. I've worked in EMS, but I'm like, I have to be wrong. I have to be. And like, but part of me already kind of knew, but I was not willing to accept at this point.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, he had rigor. So I knew he was rigor mortis. Anyone who doesn't know, that means he's been gone for a little while now. And he knew, like, he planned it in a way where he knew I wouldn't be able to help him. He did it.
He timed it.
I told him, I was like, hey, I've got a friend coming over to help work on a project tomorrow. And I was like, well, like, just like keep a little quiet. We're going to do our thing. And then we'll talk after. Right. And he's just kind of like nodding, whatever. He's like, he had been drinking and stuff, but like, I was like, okay, like whatever. Well, I'm going to do this project, but he knew I'd be busy. He picked a time he knew he'd be busy. He barricaded his room, and he did it in a way where he knew, because he knew I'd try to save him and he didn't want me to do it. So at this point, this is like years in the making. He'd been to the hospital. He knew how to lie his way out of the hospital because he didn't want help. And like he really picked his moment, So yeah, I found him, and then I was on the phone with 911, and they're like, okay, so we might need to start CPR. And then I go to turn him, and he's like stiff, and I'm like, nope, that's it. And then the police came, the coroner came. One of the cops that was there recognized me because he'd been there before.
Yeah.
And, but that day, so as far as like long answer is like, how did I process this? I cried my face off, and I didn't care. I was like, this cop knows me. These people coming in know me. I don't care. I'm feeling this way. This is my day. I'm gonna feel sad. I'm gonna feel.
This is your brother.
Yeah. Like I was, and it's so weird. Cause like, like I said, not my first body. And like, at the same time, like I know what the protocol kind of is around this. And like, because, and as soon as I said he's stiff, I know the dispatcher on the line knows like no point in going emergent. Like he's gone. Yeah. But he's like, so, police are on their way. I'm going to hang up and I'm going to talk to someone else. Is that okay? And in my mind, like somewhere in me, I know, that's makes sense. They don't need to stay on the phone with me, but I just keep going. I don't know. Like I couldn't, as much as I knew exactly what I should have done in that situation, I'm still just kind of like in a daze.
Yeah. You're in shock.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah. And then, like you said, even now when you're like, I don't care that I was crying, it's like the fact that you even have to say that, because like you say that
there would have been a time I would have kept it in.
I would have
tried to save face.
That industry is very, like you say, compartmentalized, and
but I was like,
this is your brother. You're not clocked in.
Yeah. I was like, dude, I don't care what anybody thinks of me today. Yeah. This is my, like, if you want to tell me not to feel sad about this, fuck right off.
There's something wrong with you if you think that.
Yeah. I was like, and that's, dude, and this is, and it's almost like, talk about like skills that I'd learned over time where it's like, dude, sometimes you got a big feeling and you just got to let it out. And, maybe there's times where it's like, okay, if you're in an emergency, if there's currently danger, hold it in until you're in a safe place. But once you're in that safe place, you got to let it out somehow. Yeah. And it's, dude, I let myself cry in ways that, just like 10 years prior, I never would have. Yeah. I would have done drugs about it. I would have drank myself to sleep about it. But I was like, that's not an option anymore. If I got to cry, I'm going to cry. And I didn't do, God, after that happened. And like the process I had, My mom's calling up like, hey, because she was the one who wanted to check on him, and she's calling like, what's going on? I'm like, the police are here. Can I just call you later? She's like out getting her haircut, and I'm like, just get home. Because I was like, I don't want to tell her. She's driving. She called me from her Bluetooth in the car, and I'm like, I don't want to tell you while you're driving. But she just kept pushing and pushing, and I had to tell her. Never forget. Never forget her voice, like the way that she sounded. I had to. We had to tell my sister. We had to tell. Actually, no. I told my dad. Never forget that either. I had to tell him what happened, and he just goes, "Oh, no, I wonder what happened."
Wow.
Oh my God. Took everything in me not to start screaming. Like, you happened. Like, like still to this day, and this is why, like, man, I want him to have, like, I want him to go therapy and start build some vocabulary that we can share, because we've never really talked about what happened. And I'm like, man, if you can't show a little humility when we start talking about how this went down, I'm going to unload on you, dude. Cause like, and I don't know, it wasn't just him, but like more than anyone else on this earth. If I had to pick one person, like, dude, it was you. And and not just what you did, but your utter inability, utter unwillingness to learn from what happened. You just won't change. And that's why, man, still got some anger at that dude for sure.
Of course. And at the same time, here's old Nance over here. I got to say it. Well, I got to say it, like, in my recovery work, and I do work a program for adult children, but it's like, we do not blame or shame our parents, because in some ways we have become them, but also my mother was suicidal and said it was my fault because I was such a cruel daughter.
See,
and I'm like, and then my therapist is like, absolutely never anyone else's fault. Now, I see what you're saying. This is what led him to this place, but there was a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And you took one fork and he took another.
Well, in some ways I got lucky. I was lucky to get the help that I did. I know, I did choose to go with it when it was presented to me.
I know what you mean, but it's like, there are some variables that this was a setup. And what we say in our program too is we couldn't have turned out any differently. Yeah. So I don't know what to say. I feel like there's a part of me, obviously, that is valid anger. Obviously. I mean, I still think a lot, and I still do, like, to this day, I want so bad to, like, forgive him, but it's like, where do you meet me halfway on this, man? Like, where do you do anything to learn how to talk to your kids, the ones that you have left? Like, and that's one of the things I want to be like, the kids you have left. You want a relationship with the ones that are still alive, then change anything, dude. Just be open to the idea that you could change something. Yeah. And for me to confront him, I confronted him after this was, I just confronted him last year on Father's Day, and we didn't really get into it. For him to just tighten up and no, I never did anything wrong, really. Because like, one of your kids almost died. One of your kids did die. My sister, I don't want to talk too much about her life because I know I don't have her permission to, but like, she started getting into trouble and stuff too as a kid. I think it helped though. She was a girl and she was able to build her sort of second family away from our family. Like she found really good connections with other people, even at a younger age. And she started to kind of go bad crowd, but she actually ended up kind of turning her life around on her own. Yeah. The sons didn't have that. And we both freaked out pretty hard. I'm going to probably spend the rest of my life wondering, like, why did I get better and he didn't? I'm just going to. Well, that's something that I think this is about empowerment. Honestly, what about humor? Humor plays a huge role in our boy. I call it my life jacket. Like, it's buoyancy. Yeah. It gives me buoyancy. It's, I can dive down and I can look at something and then I can make fun of it immediately. Immediately. Yeah. Like, I can talk about the person who, I don't want to tell you. I was just about to trauma dump a whole bunch of stuff. I was like,
I kind of just did. So.
No, but that's
I do have to. We haven't even. I do want to like get into chakras and stuff too, because we're gonna love this. But there is, despite all the horror I just unloaded on you, it gets so much better. It's
here. Like, I feel like we should have like the sun comes.
Yeah, we need a ray of sun to come in here.
The sun rises and goes.
It's weird. Having gone through that, my life now is still kind of awesome. It's weird. Like, I'm still processing that and going through it, but I know I want to talk about it in comedy one day. One of the differences I do think between what he went through and what I went through is, like, I had already started doing comedy. I'd already done so much therapy, and I really took it seriously, which is another big thing. I do wonder too, just being young, like, I was the firstborn and my dad was actually pretty nice to us when we were kids. And I wonder if, like, I still had some part of that niceness stored in me. And then, like, that got me through some of the harder stuff. Like, when he was mean to me, I was like, I somewhere deep down, I'm like, I don't deserve this. And then as a kid, I still internalized so much of it. But some part of me was always just very rebellious and like, no, like, I don't deserve this. And maybe by the time he came around and I was already getting into trouble, and he just witnessed that and was like, I just better shut down because this is not a safe place. Like, Could have been that. And also, yeah, I had working on the ambulance after going to therapy actually ended up being helpful. And then like comedy, having a form of, in comedy is a lot of things.
Having an expression and
community. You make friends with other weirdos.
Yeah.
All of us comedians, there's so many weirdos.
The physical thing of laughing.
Yeah. And improv. Actually, I did improv for a couple years, and I did improv for like a full year before I did stand up. Improv is so good for like, you do a lot of acting and you do a lot of characters, and there's like, you realize like so much in your emotional state is trapped based in also like your physical movement and the way you carry yourself, the way your voice is. And when you start acting like other people, you start to realize like, oh, like in some ways that's just habituated. Like I'm sad because I learned to act sad and I never learned to act any other way. So like I highly recommend improv. And I've actually, there's a lot of good material in this. They've done a lot of studies. It's great for, they've done studies with people with autism, people with all sorts of different trauma, different mental illness. Stuff like improv can actually be really good for loosening up and sort of getting out of yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. And I actually teach. I had all that. I do these keynotes, as you know, the Power of Humor keynotes, but I also do this workshop called Practicing Playful Presence. And it's about being in the present moment, which is also a wonderful, that's where the joy is in life. Yeah. We're not anxious about the past or the future.
Yeah.
We're in this present moment together. And also I do teach people to kind of not think.
Yeah.
Like get in your body.
Well, yeah. Get off the hamster wheel in your head and start being grounded and present and feel where you are now.
And trust yourself. Yeah. Like trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Get into your instinctual body responses.
Well, that's people with trauma, like you've had your own instincts turned against you at some point. And you've had those deep sort of subconscious
that
feelings.
I can't trust what I know when you've been gaslit as a kid.
And a huge thing that I've learned sort of in my own learning around trauma is like we think of the body-mind as separate. Your body and your mind are not two distinct entities. Your body is your mind and your mind is your body. Most of what we call the unconscious or subconscious mind is actually just your body. And that's another thing that has like been game-changing for me. And then
there's so many neurons in the gut too.
Yeah, and in the heart. And in the heart. And actually,
I didn't know about neurons in the heart.
You've got you've got more nerves running from your heart to your brain than the other way around.
What?
Yeah. And this is why this is a great intro to chakras.
Okay, let's do it.
Chakras. How I kind of stumbled upon these actually. And so I did post-recovery, I did do a little bit of like psychedelics and stuff like that. I've kind of stopped now because I do think like ultimately you're supposed to be like, if they're helpful at all, I think the goal is to do them to the point you don't need them anymore. And I have gotten to that point where I don't need them, but I did have, so after therapy, after all this life experience, I actually did psychedelics as a punk little teenager. I had a couple sort of out of body, like, ooh, I'm one with the universe moments, nothing that really changed my life. I did them after therapy, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, talk about like journey from the head to the heart. You can really shorten that with some psychedelics. And I don't even have time to get into like some of the like dreamy experiences I had on those. I am cautious about like recommending them to people like in the right circumstances, with the right guidance, with the right sort of front loading. Absolutely, they can be life-changing. They can also do harm if not respected. So I'm like very cautious about, hey, you have trauma, go do drugs about it. You'll be fine. No, I'm not saying that.
Diagnoses are not a good
certain
fit.
Ones, certain people that are like manic and like schizophrenic and stuff like that, it can actually do more harm than good. So I'm like, I recommend meditation, self-work, therapy way before I would recommend, but like it did, I would be lying if I said it didn't help me at all. So it did. And one of the things I remember I was having on one of these experiences, I was just doing some meditating and all of a sudden I was able to like feel these different points. I didn't believe in this stuff at all. I was like, this is way woo-woo. I don't really, but to me, it's like, look, even if you don't know it's objectively real, it's a very helpful mental model. And I understood, it was like, I got in touch with like people in ancient times. I was able to see like, if you just close your eyes and pay attention as close as you can, you do start to realize there are parts of my body that are sort of brighter than others. They talk to me more. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm able to speak their language. I had like a bunch of conversations with different parts of my body. It was rough at first. Some of them were mad at me. But that's how it got. But that's the thing, is like, I'd been ignoring them.
Let them speak.
I was like, I had been ignoring them. And like, part of it is like, I had to cry so much because I was like, God, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't even realize I'd abandoned you.
Almost had to make amends to yourself.
Big time.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger.
God, it was so dramatic too. I remember I was actually starting to feel a lot of pain. Like I was panicking. Like I thought this was going to be the worst trip of my life. And I was like really, and then at one point, kind of my mind and my body are talking. And my body is just like really clenching up. I'm starting to feel a lot of things release that I had been holding on to for a long time. And my body is like, this is what it means to be alive. And if you don't like it, just leave me here to die. And in the most dramatic, like action movie moment ever, my mind goes, I am not leaving you like this. Like,
I'm a Marine.
Yeah. It was, dude, it was like a friggin' like a Schwarzenegger movie. Like, no, you're coming with no man left behind. And in that moment, it was a moment of pure honesty, like from my spirit to my body. And in that moment, my body was like, oh, he means this. And it like all of a sudden the pain goes away. I loosen up. Like it was like magic. And I thought it was like, I was having kind of a horrible trip. Like I was shaking and I was like, oh my God, do I need to go to the hospital? Like I was like really freaking out and in pain. And then all of a sudden it just starts to loosen up. And I was all tense and in pain. I couldn't even cry. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not leaving you like this. And all of a sudden I let go and I bawl for like a good, like 15. I mean, it felt like an eternity. It was probably like 15 minutes.
Such a relief.
But I just like, oh, like I didn't even realize you actually cared about us like that.
Yeah.
My body opens up. I like that. My dreams that night, I had like a couple different talks. And this is why I like chakras now. So you're going to love this. My plan for my career, I want 7 hours of comedy, each of them based on a chakra. Each hour. So the hour I'm working on now has to do with the trauma of like fear and physical safety. That's your root chakra. My next one's going to be sacral. That's going to be about sex, creativity, pleasure. And I'm going to talk a lot about sort of like masculinity and the toxic version I was raised in. Next one is solar. That's your sense of power. I'm going to talk about what power is, who has it, who doesn't, and why. I'm going to talk about heart. That's right. Love and connection. That's going to be the one where I have to talk about grief. That's the one where I'm going to have to talk about my brother. And luckily that's years from now. So heart is going to be about relationships, family, love. Then throat, I know you know that one. That's going to be a lot about art and expression, and particularly for me, comedy and why I chose comedy.
And speaking.
Yep.
Sprecken.
And speaking your truth. Yep. Yeah. Third eye, that's, sort of insight and is blocked by illusion. That one's going to be a lot about like propaganda. And then crown, obviously, is sort of our connection to the divine. That one's going to talk about, attachment. And that one, I'm going to tell the story of how I beat God in a comedy contest, sort of. And it's also a story about mental health and burnout and how I was so attached to this outcome that I ended up almost like wrecking myself. But I ended up actually, and not realizing like, oh no, what I was really looking for was in front of me all along, but I should have been not so attached to this outcome. So there is a happy ending to it. Yeah. So, and each one of them has a story. Each one of them comes with a story of how this area of our life can become blocked. Also, though, we can overcompensate. And I've talked a little bit about like even like codependency, that's an addiction of the heart. Yeah. Most traditional addictions that we think of as addictions, I think are like sacral. Like we seek out intense pleasure and stimulation. But there's also, you can have an addiction of the root. So the root chakra, think of like agoraphobics, people that are so addicted to safety that they won't even go outside. Then on the other hand, there's people that are opposite. They're like adrenaline junkies. They're overcompensating. So let's say you don't have a good heart chakra, you can't open it, and you compensate for your lack of love in your life by like, I'm just going to jump out of plane. I'm just going to work on an ambulance. I don't want to work on like all these higher order problems. And so you just get in fights with people. You're a Karen yelling at people like, take my frickin' coupon, like addicted to adrenaline. Or they avoid adrenaline and discomfort at all costs. And the trick is balance. Yeah. Same with like sacral. It's like, pleasure is a good positive life force, but if you use that to compensate, it's going to start destroying the rest of you. Or there's people who shun pleasure entirely. There's people that just totally, I'm going to be
stoicism.
Kind of. Yeah. People that are just very, and I think a lot of, people with like a religious trauma end up doing this where they're totally ashamed of sex. They're totally ashamed of pleasure. Yeah. Anything that makes me feel good is sinful. Same with power. Some people get addicted to power. Some people get addicted to making themselves small and powerless.
I was going to say, I wonder like addiction to rejection, addiction to shame.
The heart. Yeah. Heart can be, either I shove everyone away, or it can be addictive as far as like codependency, as far as like, I just need to, if I can just make this other person happy.
Oh, that's interesting.
But so so how I kind of decided to do this as a project was realizing like, all right, the big cognitive deficit of my life, one of the biggest mistakes in thinking that I ever made, and this is how I got into addiction, is there's this concept of like, if I can just do one thing right, everything else will work itself out. And that is false. You need balance in life, no matter what it is. And so I couldn't feel safe growing up. So I was like, I want to just shove an abundance of pleasure into my body through chemicals, even though I was also like kind of blocked in that chakra. Like part of me felt guilty and like I didn't deserve pleasure, but you do enough drugs and it'll just bleach that out of you. And so that's what I did. Is like I overcompensated, and my heart was utterly wrecked and I didn't know how to deal with that. But I was like, whatever, if I just pursue enough pleasure and then I'll die young and that'll solve all my problems. No, it didn't. It just created more problems.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake, I think, and this is true of any kind of addiction, any kind of imbalance we have in our lives, we often, because we're closed off in one area, but we think that that's how it's supposed to be, or we get used to feeling that way, and then we overcompensate in another. And what I kind of want to guide people through, what has been very healing to me and what I think will be healing if I can talk about it on stage, will be, it's all about balance. It's all about, I want to do 7 of these, and I want to talk about how I was blocked, how I overcompensated, and ultimately how I found balance and healed. And it's weird because it's like, in some ways I am like a very skeptical, grounded like person. Like I for most of my, like, God, like when I was really young, I was like a militant atheist. I was like really annoying about it. Like I would like find people who were religious and argue with them just to prove how smart I was. And like, as I've gotten older, it's like, oh, like, even if you don't believe in this stuff literally, it's a very helpful mental model to realize like, yeah, we are one human, yet we contain multitudes. And it's in our language. We say like, oh, don't forget to use your head, go with your gut, follow your heart. Sorry about my dick. It has a mind of its own, right? Like that, it's in our language. Like we know that we contain multiple different drives that maybe one of them can get the others in trouble, and you need to learn to find balance with that. And also when you're really, really living well, I think it's getting them all on the same page. It's about finding balance between each of them, pointing them all at the same goal. And when you can do that, I think that like, if there's such a thing as magic, that's where it happens. Like that's where it comes from.
I like the word integration. And for me at this age, and I'm goal oriented, but then I'm actually, and I mentioned this and I don't know how it landed, but that part of our recovery work that I'm doing is to turn my will over to this higher power. Yeah. And for me, it's so freeing not to be like this. I've always pictured these like points, like I'm going towards this point, although you do have to set goals to meet them.
Well, and also like,
but I'm trying to decide, I'm trying to discern between my egoic goals and what the universe is like, hey, asking me to do.
Well, I think this is where like healing comes in, is trying to make them match. Like realizing my egoic goals and my higher self goals they're not always separate.
Yeah.
They can actually, there's a way I can do both. But then the question is, and I think we do, just living in the physical world, I mean, that's mostly like the first 3 chakras, like that's the one that they primarily deal with. And so that's kind of what we typically think of as the ego, is it's often rooted in those, because that's physical safety, pain, pleasure, and power. Like those are kind of the 3-dimensional in this physical world. Those tend to be the ones that do a lot of the control. But yeah, I do think we live in, especially a lot of people with trauma. I do think we get caught up in our third eye. That's when we were talking earlier about like being overly logical and being very like, and also getting out of your head and back into your body. A lot of that is like, stop living in the illusion, stop living in the story you're telling yourself about the past and the future, and just be here now with your physical body self. Like, that's what I mean. But yeah, and I still, and maybe I still have I have a little bit of a third eye addiction where I, first of all, dissociate. I still dissociate sometimes, and I work on that. But that's one of the things, like I said, I very powered by dreams, and like dreams were my escape. And part of that is like, it's very easy for me sometimes to get caught in an illusion, and I have to ground myself and come back.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people, because I mean, third eye is the one of insight here, and this idea of like, oh, I've been traumatized, and if I could just figure out enough stuff, I could somehow work my way around that trauma. If I could just solve the problem.
You're really reflecting what I need to hear right now.
Really? Awesome. Good.
I thank you for that. Yeah. I really know that
when we get caught in our heads, it can be closed, or it can be almost like too open, where it's, you can be constantly just like looking like, I got to figure this out. And like, I think the whole reason that we are subjective beings on this, like this, like existence is an illusion, but is the illusion. It is what we are here to experience. It is our dharma. It is our karma. Like it is the universe conspired to put you in this moment so you could experience it. Like, why you think you know better than the universe? Like, I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what's in closing, because you have a gig to get to.
God, yeah, I know.
love
Which
talking
is
with
too
you.
I know. We're probably going to do another one.
Right now, we definitely will.
Right now, I'm almost done with my first hour, and we went through a lot of my like physical safety trauma stuff. When I start working on sacral, we can maybe talk about that one too.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I love this idea, and I do want to have guests back every year so that we see like, oh wow, because we're all works in progress. But right now, in closing, I wanted to ask you, what's your like, I was going to say symptom of being in balance? When do you what makes you know, oh, I'm in or I'm out? Do you have a sense?
Well, it's not black or white. So one thing, all right, so like when there are like symptoms in my life when I start to get too far out of balance. So right now, like I don't do drugs at all anymore, but like I'll start to play video games a lot when I'm really stressed. And that's once again, like a third eye thing. I'm just looking for an illusion to take me out of the stress of my real life.
And I love the whole thing. I just watched The Matrix because I'm going to open for The Matrix at Red Rocks.
Awesome.
I know.
Oh my God.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But it is so funny, isn't it? This whole, the reality inside the reality inside the reality.
And we can be addicted to the illusion. We can. Many people are, oh God.
Oh, I'm absolutely certain of that.
Everyone listening right now knows at least one person addicted to an illusion. The lie that we keep telling ourselves. God. And that's also, I think that's part of the illusion, though, once again, is part of being human. I don't think we don't escape it entirely until we die. So, but anyway, what was how do I know?
Yeah. So that was one of your symptoms of like
in or out of balance.
Caffeine. I think you shared earlier.
Yeah. So like right now I am a little bit over caffeinated because I've just been working a little too hard and I've been neglecting my own sense of rest, my own sense of like, so both my root and sacral are probably a little overcompensated for by my solar, just push. I've been kind of doing that. Gosh, well, yeah, it's weird because it's a kind of a different symptom for each. It's almost like there's only a few musical notes, but God, you can play any song with them.
Yeah.
And that's the music of life. And that's, so I guess you're out of balance when the music, it can even be sad. Music can be really good, but it's sad. But when it's being played wrong, right? Like, so yeah, it's even going through difficult things doesn't necessarily mean you're out of balance, but you start to notice you're out of balance when the music starts to sound weird, right? You're like, I don't know if I like this song. It's not even that I don't like this song. It's like, it might be a really painful song, but like, why is it being played off key?
Again, we're going to go back to this whole nuance thing, aren't we? I don't know.
Is there like a correct, like a quote unquote correct way to live your life? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not.
One of my signs is, when I can just feel I'm in this flow zone.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of, the universe, doors open for me.
Yeah.
People like you call me or message me or, two people tell me like, oh, you need to talk to Von Sprecken. And then when I talk to you and I can just feel this flow. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm on my path. I'm talking to who I need to talk to right now. And I can feel when I'm trying too hard or when I'm pushing something. I don't know. I start to really can feel this certain transparency, I guess.
And you know what? It's what's happening to us now. You lose track of time.
Yep, we got to go.
And of course, I still have more to say about that.
But the timelessness.
Because when they say like time flies when you're having fun, that's sort of like that flow state of like, I don't even care about like everything around me because I know where I'm supposed to be. I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like, you lose that sense of, it's the opposite of like when I grew up in trauma and you just kind of carry that sense of like, oh, something's always wrong. It's the opposite of that. You're like,
thank you.
Even if this is difficult and maybe it's not the thing that I want to experience most, you're like, but like, it's good that I'm going through this. I'm going to get through this. And I'm present and I'm with it. And like, I've gotten to the point where it's like, dude, and this is why I'm like, I'm not even tempted to drink anymore. Cause I'm like, dude, when I'm going through something hard, I'm like, I would way rather just go through this. I can take the pain way better than drinking. Why would I? Like alcohol just makes you numb and sleepy. Why would I want to numb this? This is life. Like even when it hurts, it's life.
Appropriate pain. Like when a woman births a baby.
Yes.
Appropriate pain.
Right. When it has meaning attached to it. When you're able to see why you're going through it. And that's your higher and your lower both sort of coordinating with another. Yeah.
I love this. And then the natural, it feels so natural.
Yeah.
Like there's just something about it that like accepting well, the weather, like the change of seasons and all that. Like, oh, this is cold, but it's appropriate. Thank you.
It's beautiful. Anyway, this has been so... Did we just become best friends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's do our...
ready?
Wait, we got to do paper... Oh, is it... I thought it was paper rock. It's rock first? paper, scissors. Oh my God.
Everyone who can't see, we just did a really weird handshake. It was
a paper, rock, scissor.
Yeah.
And I think I just made Von Sprecken a lesbian.
Awesome.
All right, Von Sprecken, what else do you want to talk about?
One more promo.
Yeah, let's do promo.
We're doing Second Chance Comedy the 23rd of June, 2024 at the Bug Theater. Look us up, find Second Chance Comedy on Eventbrite. That is our show that is related to people that have gone through addiction and their families. If you or anyone you know has been through it, and wants to see the lighter side of this stuff, or if you're just like a supportive person who likes learning about different perspectives. We talk a lot about addiction and what it's like, and it's a little bit inspirational, a little bit storytelling and meaningful, but mostly just a really fun comedy show. Like that's the main vibe we go for, is just come out, have a really great night. And we donate 20% of our proceeds to Sobriety House. So that's another cool thing. Forgot to mention that.
I'll put a link to Sobriety House in the show notes.
Please. Yeah.
But thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing thank you for turning the darkest shit in your life into this beautiful thing.
Thank you for having me. This has been, oh God. And I've been looking forward to talking to you too for like a while. Like ever since I started listening, several people recommended it to me. And then I listened to a couple episodes and I was like, yeah, this is going to be fun. Like, yeah, I'm so glad we did this.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all your gifts with us.
Thank you.
Oh my God. I'd like to thank my guest, Von Sprecken, for spending time with me and for sharing so many vulnerable truths and insights and experiences. I learned a lot. And please look in the show notes. As I mentioned throughout the podcast, there are things that you'll find, resources for some of the things that we mentioned in the podcast. So go to the show notes if you need some resources, and also don't be shy to reach out to us, nancynorton.tv. I'd like to thank you, the listener. Thank you for listening. I am learning so much. I'm healing. I hope that I'm helping you heal, and let's heal each other. Let's keep doing it. I'd like to thank my son, Nathaniel Norton, for putting together the music track. And remember, every week there's a new episode of Traumedy. So far, I've had energy and ability to do it, so I'm excited. Every Tuesday, it's Traumedy Tuesdays. And remember, no matter what, keep laughing.